If you at all play FIFA career mode or football manager, then you would be very familiar with this wonder kid. And in recent weeks, PSG have made him their main target in the summer, and yesterday it was announced by Fabrizio Romano they have all but reached an agreement with Benfica over the signing of the 19-year-old Joao Neves for a reported fixed transfer fee of 70 million euros plus a player, beating out the rumoured long-time interest of Manchester United. And the player in the deal is ex-Benfica wonder kid in Renato Sanches. Although the player involved in the deal isn't confirmed, that is who everyone expects it to be. Joao has also agreed a deal with PSG, and the transfer seems all but official. But why are PSG so willing to pay 70 million euros for a player that has played just 50 Liga Portugal games and only made his first team debut for Benfica on the first day of 2023? What makes Joao Neves worth the money? What makes him so special? And is 70 million euros a huge amount to pay, or is it what you have to pay when trying to get someone with the potential and the quality of someone like Joao Neves? Well, that's what we'll be talking about today. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Back of the Net here. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. In 2016, Joao Neves moved to Benfica's main academy from a Benfica development center, and 4 years later, at the age of just 16, Joao Neves in 2020 signed his first professional contract with Benfica. In the 21-22 season, Neves was part of a phenomenal Benfica under-19 team that in the UEFA Youth League topped their group with Kiev, Bayern and Barcelona all in that group, and then they went on to win the whole thing, winning the UEFA Youth League. Neves then went on to make his professional debut in 2022 with Benfica B in the second tier of Portuguese football in a 1-1 draw. And at the end of 2022, during a club break for the FIFA World Cup, Joao Neves played his first unofficial game for Benfica's first team in a behind closed doors friendly against Sevilla. Benfica's manager Roger Schmidt then went on to invite Joao to several first team training sessions where he impressed the coaches tons. And these training performances then saw Joao Neves get rewarded with a contract extension with Benfica lasting until 2028. And on January 1st, 2023, Joao Neves made his first team debut for Benfica, coming on as a late substitute in a 3-0 loss to Braga. On the 7th of March 2023, Joao made yet another step in his career, making his Champions League debut, coming on for João Mario in the 74th minute, even getting an assist for Benfica's 5th goal in a 5-1 demolition of Belgian side Club Brugge. In the last bit of the season, Joao Neves started to become a regular in the team after seeing Enzo Fernandez leave for Chelsea and Florentino Luiz's form be a little bit patchy at times. Neves even got his first goal on the 21st of May 2023 in the Derby de Lisboa against Sporting Lisbon. Joao Neves made 20 appearances for Benfica in his first professional season, helping Benfica get their first league title in 4 years. But last season, Joao Neves was easily one of the first names on the team sheet for Benfica. Joao played an extremely impressive 55 games in all competitions last season for Benfica, even getting himself 3 goals and 2 assists from defensive midfield at the age of 19 years old, seeing himself be voted as Primeira Liga's midfielder of the month 4 times last season. And last season he was also called up to the Portuguese first team in October of last year and was even selected in the 26-man squad to go to Germany for the UEFA Euro 2024 under Roberto Martinez. And despite only playing 77 minutes in all of the Euros, it was still a huge accomplishment for someone that only started playing professional football about a year ago. Now, Joao Neves is a defensive midfielder that admittedly is quite small for defensive midfield, standing at just 5'7", making his frame and his build seem more to be suited to play as a normal central midfielder instead, seeing the best defensive midfielders right now in the world, the likes of Declan Rice and Rodri and so on, all be quite tall and quite a physical presence. But history has shown that defensive midfielders can be small for their position and still be world class. Someone like N'Golo Kante is a perfect example of that. Joao Neves' style of play is very assertive, almost always touching the ball and always having a huge involvement in every game, seeing his touch stats rank in the 100th percentile compared to other players in his position and league. Joao Neves is incredible at dictating the play and the speed of the play from midfield. He is reasonably impressive on the ball, but he is way more impressive in my eyes at recovering the ball by either tackling or intercepting it, making him incredibly effective in a team that looks to dominate the ball and still stop any counterattacks when they lose the ball. Joao Neves has surprisingly good footwork and good dribbling, and also surprisingly decent progressive passing, and does have a somewhat decent shot to him. Now, Joao Neves could still become a better playmaker from deep, and he could still get better at carrying the ball forward and be more of a goal threat when he does shoot or carry the ball forward. Neves at times can also still be very silly by making a huge amount of fouls or just getting needless yellow cards, although at the age of 19 years old, he's not the most experienced player ever. That is pretty much to be expected. But listen, overall, Joao Neves, while still quite raw, he is an extremely solid defensive midfielder that in my eyes thrives on the defensive end and is efficient enough on the ball that when you watch him, you can see the extreme high potential he has. And on paper, in my eyes, he's a perfect fit for a team that looks to control the game, dominate the game, and stop any counterattacks. So a team like PSG, a team like Bayern Munich, those types of teams where they control the game, usually against weaker opposition, in my eyes, Joao Neves is a perfect fit for a team like that. Now, onto the transfer fee. Is the 70 million euro fee worth it for Joao Neves? Well, first things first. In early July, PSG made a bid for a rumored 70 million euros for Joao Neves, only to reportedly be rejected by Benfica, and Benfica reportedly only wanting the release clause of 120 million euros, despite the president of Benfica and Rui Costa coming out to say that those claims were inaccurate and they wouldn't only accept the release clause. That is false. Now, even as much as I really like Joao Neves, 70 million euros plus a player is quite a steep price to pay for Joao Neves. Now, that's not to say that Neves will be a flop or he isn't worth the money, because I like Neves a lot and I can see him becoming a very high level player that can most certainly live up to that 70 million euro price tag. But even in today's market, 70 million euros plus a player, in my eyes, it's quite a lot of money to pay. I can't help but feel that if it was a team like, let's say, Juventus approaching Benfica, well, they might have been able to swindle Benfica and get Joao Neves for something like 50 to 60 million euros. But saying that, I mean, according to Transfermarkt, Joao Neves' value is 55 million euros, so maybe a transfer fee of 70 million euros plus a player isn't as steep as I've just said it is, although I don't really know. Look, at the end of the day, there is no doubt in Joao Neves' quality and his sky-high potential. Now, I do get a lot of people not being happy with him deciding to go to PSG instead of a more competitive league, but I do think PSG is actually a perfect place for Joao Neves to keep improving and fulfill his potential. Luis Enrique is a manager that I rate very, very highly, and I think Neves could develop very well under Luis Enrique. I also think playing and most likely starting a huge amount of games for a club like PSG can allow Joao Neves the minutes to grow and become better in maybe a slightly less competitive league than something like La Liga and the Premier League, but could still see him play some very high-level players at times while also playing Champions League football every single year. Another thing is that Joao Neves can also develop alongside an extremely underrated midfielder and fellow countryman in Vitinha, and alongside another wonder kid in Zaire Emery. From PSG's perspective, I love the move for them. They've got themselves a blue chip wonder kid, maybe a tad expensive, but I think it might be worth it in the long run. And from Joao Neves' perspective, again, I like the move as well. I think PSG is a good place for him to grow and learn, and maybe even fulfill his sky-high potential alongside the likes of Zaire Emery and Vitinha, and under the tutelage of Luis Enrique.